Coffee and Chel is back. Before we get into the episode, just want to take a second. There was an issue with the video portion of this, so I do apologize. We'll get it taken care of the next episode. So no cameras. If you're on YouTube watching this, throw up some squad battles. Do whatever you got to do. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Welcome back. Episode 98 of Coffee and Chel. You know, gone but not forgotten. We decided to show up to work and record a podcast. It is myself and Stu. No Papa or Benny in the background. More, I guess we can open with that a little bit, but just want to take a second. Myself, since my kiddo was born, just so early, man. I go to bed at like 9 p.m. Those boys are out in the West Coast. It's really hard to sync up times and record late at night. So me and Stu, him being someone who just doesn't sleep because he's a cyborg, able to do it in the morning. This is a real Coffee and Chel moment. I'm actually drinking coffee in the AM because we're doing this at 8 in the morning Eastern time, 7 a.m. Central. So they'll be on at some point throughout the year for sure. But for the meantime, for the next little while, just for flexibility to try and be able to, record. I think we're going back to just me and you for a little while through the summer. But we've had a ton of happen, my man. Let's first, what's new with you, man? What's new with you?
Not much. It's been super busy with work. We had to let somebody go there, so it's just kind of like picking up some of the stuff that he was not doing,
That's
he
the
was supposed
worst.
to be doing, and with the family business, it's always that way where it's not exactly super corporate-y, so you kind of.
And work doesn't shut off. You get to take it home. That's the
Yeah,
worst. That's the
exactly.
worst about
And
being
I
self-employed.
have been actually like more tired mentally, which is weird
Mm-hmm.
because usually like you said, I'm weird, like, and I still can stay up and everything. It's just I feel it more now
Mm-hmm.
because I'll drive home, and the minute I sit in my car in the seat, I'm like zero,
Yep.
like it just like zaps out of me, and I'm like, why is this happening? And then I realized like, oh, it's because of all this like weird unnecessary stress that came up, and I didn't even realize like I stress, like, because I feel like I try not to stress, like it's
Mm-hmm.
like, but you just do it anyways as a human, and I'm trying my best to just
Power
get
through
back.
it.
Yeah, battle power through it, right?
Dude, the
Exactly.
last 3 months, I feel yeah. We'll talk about it a little bit more as as it involves the World Championship. But man, the travel for me this year was all in one point, like one 6 week stretch, and blessed to go to the places I got to go to. But it's hard to be away from your family, especially when you have a kid, and it just absolutely wiped me. And the last 3 months. Really been focusing on like health and finding a balance that you can do daily. Dude, I'm asleep by 9:30 every day pretty much
Yeah,
now.
when I think I texted you like cord at like 10 or 11 o'clock at night my time, so it'd have been like at 12 midnight your time, maybe 11 o'clock your time, and you're like, brother, I just got up to pee. Like I never would,
Yeah.
I never would see this, and that's when I kind of knew, like, okay, the
We got to make it
podcast
we
is
got to make an
gonna the
adjustment.
podcast is gonna probably have to change a little bit because you're like, I'm just trying to, and listen, like, it's there's nothing wrong with like I don't take care of myself great with like sleep. I know I don't, and sleep is very important. So I mean, I'm not knocking you for going to bed. Like it's smarter, especially when you have a job like yours where you're kind of like, I can set up my schedule this way
Yeah.
and
I've
make
always
it
been a
feel.
night hawk too, man. Like I've always
Yeah,
stayed up to like 1 a.m. and it just everything changes when you have a kid. It's such a
right.
cliche thing, but like there's no way around it. Like everything just changed. He's up at like
And
7
and
and
and maybe when the new game comes out, like you'll change it again, or but it's
I
like
just won't sleep. Like that I already know that's what'll happen the
yeah,
first
it's
month
just
or two.
but like leading into that will kind of like lead into like the no GWC, like it's obviously everyone saw that the Game World Championships are on pause, they say,
Yeah.
but I
Yep.
mean we'll see what happens long term. But I was gonna say with you, it kind of creates a different setup for you. I mean, you were super involved with it,
Mhm.
and I mean, I feel like it's bittersweet, probably. I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, so yeah, for anyone that doesn't know, the NHL World Championship, they announced in their Discord that it was via the NHL, one of the Rivals admins. Rivals was the website that ran it. Put out a statement basically saying that the NHL 25 World Championship, they're putting it on pause, or the World Championship they're putting on a pause, first time in 7 years. I think that this kind of just shows the landscape of esports as a whole is going through a big reduction in money and attention, and we'll get into that as well. But yeah, so it is taking a pause from this year. It won't be happening, at least for this season. I think the term pause is positive in the sense that it's not done forever. They're not announcing that it's over, and it's always more difficult to build something brand new when it comes to an organization of that size, like the NHL, than it is to kickstart whatever they had going before. Um, I'm a pessimist when it comes to this industry, so I don't know if it'll ever come back. But it was a fantastic run. I put out a pretty lengthy tweet. It was sad, but you're right. It was a little bittersweet because I remember when NHL esports was like starting, much like when my career was starting, and GWC was a big part of it. But all the club tournaments and all the smaller tournaments, there had been nothing going on in NHL esports, and then there was this boom, and every tournament was interesting, and everyone watched. And as it came along, everyone just expected more and more out of the GWC, and the club tournaments and smaller tournaments were just an afterthought. You know, you won a tournament for $5,000. That's like $5,000 playing video games in a day is huge. And it was just like whatever because it's not the
Right.
GWC, right? But let's talk about like the HUD implications because
Yeah.
you're right. I think the one thing that's interesting, the last 2 years I've kind of spent focusing my HUT content on casual players because I learned, I think in NHL 22, that was when the AP gate happened. And one of the things that stuck with me within that was I kept getting comments in my videos being like, you only care about like the competitive players. And at the time, NHL 21 was my best game. I'd almost qualified for GWC, so I was like hyper trying to be as good as I can. It was my only focus, and when I would release content about what cards were good, and I would hammer cards that had no use, not realizing that 99% of the player base doesn't really care about GWC or NHL esports because it's they just play the game for fun. And now we talked about this a lot. What happens to the competitive scene when GWC goes away? What's the
Right.
interest? Like, where do you? And you're someone that only played HUT because of GWC, so I guess we could start there on a 30,000 foot view. When you heard the GWC was done, what was your first thought about the game and how you're gonna play it?
This doesn't sound awful to say. Um, Kind of relieved. Um, I say relieved because I was talking. It's kind of funny. I had no clue this was gonna happen.
I didn't
Honestly,
either. Oh, by the way, I want to get that out there. I got a call the day before the news drop. I've been involved for a long time. They just wanted to give me a heads up. So I didn't know like months in advance or anything like that. I literally found out the day before the Discord thing. So go
and
ahead.
I don't think Kevin, who ran it,
Ran
hope
the
maybe we get
GBC.
him. Maybe we get him on eventually about
Yeah,
just
that'd be
to like
cool to get like a
talk about the
retrospective.
history or yeah,
Yeah.
right, whatever. But I was talking to Kevin like probably 2 months ago about things that I would do to improve it next year. And so he was like already preparing for next year. So this even came up, I think, on his end too, kind of. I think it was somebody
Mm-hmm.
from higher up, like we talked about.
Yeah.
Um, so I was just, I just want the best tournament for everybody. I'm not going to win. I'm going to partake in it, but I want the best tournament for everybody because I want to see the best players there. I want to see the best players, get chances at least at winning. So I was trying to come up with some things to, possibly help him and out with everything. And yeah, from my standpoint, me and you talked about this probably like a few weeks ago. I was like, dude, I want to be able to play this game like MLB. I want to get on and just play online games and not feel like I have to, grind moments and
Mm-hmm.
grind squad battles and make my whole lineup full of guys for like 20 squad battle games. Even though they're meaningless games, it still takes time. And like, I just want to get on and play. And in MLB, I can get on and play and I still have like 500,000 stubs. I finished the whole collection and I don't ever feel in need of like, oh my gosh, I really got to get on today to grind, and I have to really play today. Where I know NHL is a completely different sports game and different company and everything. It's just I was telling you already, I was like, there's got to be a way to do it. Like maybe I just do like an only like a Blues team or only 6'4" and taller team. I don't have to chase McDavid and McKinnon and maybe I do that. I was trying to come up with like different things and I
Mm-hmm.
really couldn't think of it. So I see the game and like we'll kind of go into that with the game as I still will probably play HUD as of right now. I don't know. I haven't seen the game. Nothing's come out, right? Like we're looking forward
It's
to
been
hopefully
pretty
seeing
quiet.
some.
Yeah, it should be pretty soon that we'll get something on the game changer front. Usually we get it's getting later and later. I just realized it's almost July 1st. Usually we would get
Yeah.
it in May. And it's been, last year I think we got it in like July and like the alpha. And I haven't got it yet. So I'm assuming we'll probably get it sometime shortly, but yeah, I haven't seen anything
Right.
about 25 yet.
Yeah, and if I messaged one of the guys at EA and I was like, well, bittersweet, but time for the leaderboards. Like,
That's it,
'cause
yo. In my tweet at the very end of it, I said that one of the positives from this is it forces EA's hand to give something to the competitive players. I think one of the issues is that it's the like ESHL is propped up by League Gaming and
100%.
Sports Gamer in Europe, and so they don't have to. There's no rush or urge to like reward. You know?
We had a podcast discussing this
Yeah,
exact topic. Me and you are proponents of the.
yeah,
Don't get me wrong, guys. Money tournaments are cool. Whatever the money on the line. I've played in them. I've done them. It's fine. I'm not knocking it. It's just I want to go back to the roots of what we gained for. I
yeah,
miss it
man.
so much. I miss getting on and playing for a stupid virtual number next year. I say stupid because it really means I know they're not gonna there's not anything that's going to be like in the Guinness Book of World Records for you or
Hmm.
anything, but it's just more the fact we would get on. It was just the it's almost like the kid in you again,
You can
like
log in to like NHL 14 and go to like the
yeah,
versus leaderboards and your name's still there. Like
yeah. I don't.
that's sick. Like that's
But it
cool.
was just cool. Like we would play for nothing back then, and
Hmm.
money changes everything, right?
Yeah.
Like everyone always says that money, power, you get the whole thing.
Yep.
Like not even just video games, like in life, right? Like money changes everything. I get it, and for good and bad, right? But and a lot of times bad, honestly. But
Hmm.
yeah, it's just I feel like, and then it created, like you said, like a sense of talent. Like,
It's a lot
that
of it. That
tournament,
was this year. There was again. I've been more and more disconnected because, and like that's something that I didn't really like
yeah,
about myself involved with the tournament. I had gotten to the. I remember in 2018, I watched the event, didn't even know what it was, didn't compete in it, and I was like, I got to be involved in this. And I spent
yeah,
like the next 7 years grinding, and I got to like the peak of what I could do, being the voice of it. But during those times early on, I was like involved with I don't want. I'm not gonna. I don't want to pat myself on the back saying like I built NHL esports. That's not the case. But I was
you
like
were a big
I
part of
was a
it though.
broker. Basically early on in 2020 and right after even 2019, which is the golden year of NHL esports in my opinion, because the GWC was in its second year, had its most hype, and then every club ran an event, and
Yeah,
all those events because there had never been an event before like was just everyone paid attention. It was new. It
I
was
drove
great.
up to Detroit in the middle of the
Yeah,
night to
dude,
play
it
the
was
Red Wings tournament
crazy,
because there was
crazy.
nothing else, and I was really good at the time, so
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to do it because it was a big deal. But to go off what you're saying is it lost its luster.
That's
Not
the
all in the
issue. You
not
know,
all in the NHL though.
no.
There's COVID.
Yep.
There's just the tiredness of it
EA.
being 7 years old. EA, the game not being good. But you could just see it. I mean, like, and part of it's they did so good, honestly, the first few
The
years.
first two, yeah.
Like, it's almost like it almost is like the Arizona Coyotes. You play in this
Mm-hmm.
downtown arena, even though it wasn't perfect, the Suns arena, and then it's packed, top 10, and you're doing great. Attendance, whiteouts. Then they go to Gila. Then they go to the college arena, and
Yep.
it kind of like did that a little bit, and we're playing in the Luxor in Vegas,
Yep.
and everyone knows it. It's on NBC. Part of it's there's another thing that the partnership with NBC's gone. Like not the NHL's fault, just
Yeah.
the way
Yeah.
it went, and the
Exactly.
game didn't use NBC. Like you've talked about that with the game. You miss NBC, you miss Doc being in
Mm-hmm.
the game and the presentation. Then you go down and it starts to go lower and lower and lower. And like I said, not knocking them, but we ended up in a freaking
In the
store,
store, yeah, like the so but this year I felt that
They
there
did what they
was
could.
an entitlement from the player base where it felt like this tournament was just their god-given right every year, and if
Hmm.
it wasn't this grandiose spectacle, that why do we even care? And a lot of people are going to get a reality check this year when it's gone,
Oh
and
yeah.
I don't think that's a bad thing because it resets expectations and interest. And the it was unsustainable in the sense that in the first 2 years, I would love to see that bill. Again, I wasn't part of it, and in 2019, I went. Like I
Yeah.
remember, Cookie was staying at the Win in a suite. Like I can't even imagine the price tag on that. And just the studio in the U.S. in Connecticut. They went to Sportsnet in Canada,
Yeah.
right? Like it was just unbelievable. But they didn't know what they had. And I truthfully believe, I remember when I went in 2019, again, I paid my way there. I went to all the events. I was a guest of a player, multiple players. I was Penn's guest. And before I was able to like work my way in. And I remember them talking with like the EA competitive team that was doing Madden's club championship, which is now gone, I believe. Like the Madden Club series is now over. And
I had no clue about that.
same,
Holy
I
crap!
they just do the champion yeah, like those the club ones. I believe is over. I don't want to be I because I don't watch it a lot or pay attention to it, but I from my understanding that's gone. And you had like the plans for it pre-COVID was insane. Like it looked like it was on this trajectory, and COVID just halted. Because if you remember the COVID year, they announced like it was like 75,000 to first place. Like something insane. The prize pool was nuts in year 3. COVID happened, and they had to just do it online, and it was separate, and
Yeah.
and then it was all all kind of. And the issue is that when you I'm learning this by when I made Hut Hub and with LG interests and he's very knowledgeable in business and things like that. And it's like if you offer the consumer a product or something for free or exponential amount of money, you can't ever take it away. And so you've got an unsustainable amount of money that is being given away for the prize pools. You've got venues that are unsustainable, and then you have a ridiculously huge reduction in interest in not just NHL esports, but esports in general. You're seeing it in the NBA 2K League. You're seeing it in the COD League. You're seeing it in Overwatch. Like all of the biggest esports leagues, we went through the biggest period in our history, probably, of interest in esports in terms of marketing dollars because companies had nothing to spend their marketing dollars on during COVID, and all of it went into video games. And then you had everyone at home. All they did was watch Twitch and play video games. Like and
Well, and people didn't probably before the esports was kind of like new, right?
it
Or like
was yeah.
not maybe new, but it was new to these games, right?
Yeah.
And then
It was new
you
to the
kind of have
general consumer. It was
you
new
have
to
to
the
see
consumer.
what works and doesn't work, and I think they found that out. Not to say the
Mm-hmm.
hard way, but they found it out. They it's like they blew their and then they were like, oh, okay, let's scale it back a little bit because you learn.
And
It's just
that's the
that's how it
problem. So
works.
when you scale it back, then the player base expects more, not less. And then the general perception is this sucks. Why are we doing? And it's just like
Well,
that was what I meant by entitlement. And that's
you know what always
you know.
cracked me up about that though, Sleazy, is not to be like a jerk,
Mm-hmm.
but I know when you went to the Sportsnet studio, you were like, "Holy crap! This is like where
Mm-hmm.
Kipper, this is where
Oh
these
yeah.
guys have been at," and you're like thinking about you. Not to knock the kids that are there, but a lot of them don't really care about real hockey. Not a lot of them really cared about the fact that, oh my god, I'm at the NBC studios playing a freaking video game. I don't think a lot of them really cherish that much. I think a lot of them was just like, well, what's the price pool? It's only 45K. Okay, like I'm sorry, I'm doing my Charles Ferris voice
You're
right now,
doing
but
nipping right there,
yeah,
nipping shit
but
up a
you know
little
what
bit
I
there.
mean? Like, because I would always be like, guys, like you got to play there. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Like, yeah,
like
but the format sucks. It's like okay,
and that leads to another issue because I kind of got desensitized to that stuff over the last 4
oh,
years,
100%,
and
yeah.
that like that happens because like I mean I went to MSG 4 times this year. And the venue is incredible. I got to see the Panthers play the Rangers in the regular season. I have a tweet saying I hope this is a playoff matchup, and it ended up being a great one. But I think that when you've got the same players, this was the issue. One of the bigger issues with the tournament. The tournament is not the tournament was to get a younger audience involved in the NHL, get excited about the NHL. And a very easy way to do that is video games. The thing I've been saying for the last 5 years, the NHL video game skews so much older than every other sports game, I feel. Like,
Mhm.
I saw a thing where the average age of the player in Hut was like 27. And what checks out is I'm not a competitive player. I don't even find myself super entertaining a lot of the times. And if I'm the number one person in Hut getting the most views on YouTube and Twitch statistically over the last couple of years, like there's a reason. It's because I'm 35 and I relate with all the older guys playing the game. Like that, I truthfully believe that that's why I've been able to do pretty well. Is just because I'm older than a lot of the players. And the issue is that with NHL esports is we're getting the same like 10 guys and they're just a year older. So they're not
Yeah.
even getting younger. Like the tournament's not getting younger. And that's an issue for the NHL because they obviously want the best player to win. Maybe it doesn't show in the format and things like that, but it's still something that they want the best competition. But at the end of the day, it was to get newer people eyes on hockey. And I think that what I'm seeing now from going to these events and getting invited to some of the creator things, they're doing a big shift. Like there's a circuit of like Coach Chippy, and
Yeah.
Swaggy P and Nasher. Not so much. I actually think Nasher's outgrowing it a little bit. But on the bench guys, like a lot of the creators, I went to the All Star event this year for GWC, and I got invited to the creator skills competition, and I was one of the coaches. And I didn't do anything; it was just like a figurehead thing. But like you go, and I had like Zach Bell on my team, and it was one of the best things I've seen the NHL do with creators. It was they had hundreds of fans in downtown Toronto, just playing hockey and doing crazy deeks and things like that, 3-on-3, and it was a blast. And I was like, man, they've really got something here because there were so many kids. I saw so many people. Like KVG was there, Nick the goalie, like all those guys. And the you don't, as a video game creator, you don't see how popular those guys are and the numbers
Yeah.
they're pulling on TikTok and Instagram. And the NHL is they're there in Vegas right now. They're leaning into that, and I think that the NHL is going to lean into them more than the video game. And
100%.
that's what
And
I feel. That's what I feel.
and I think we talked about too. I said the biggest thing, if I was them, I would, yeah, like I know NHL is the video game. I
It's an
get it.
easy thing. Like if you were to convince a board member, like, oh, the video game, kids play video games, that's what it
Right.
is. And
And I told you the biggest thing that I remember always was letting these guys actually play in the NHL, play a video game they want to play. Or,
Mhm.
the kids love Fortnite. So the biggest thing I remember I ever saw was that Fortnite tournament. And yes, I know it was during COVID,
Mhm.
but they had like every team had like 3 reps from it, and they were all sweaty over a charity prize, but they were loving it because that's what they play. They play Call of Duty. They play this. They don't play NHL. Not to be mean, but a lot of them don't play NHL. Like Robert Thomas, and he even says like he'll play it for like a month or two, but then he doesn't even play it like that much. I don't think there's many dudes. It's a rare breed to find the Hendrix LaPierres that are
Yeah, I
like,
was about to
hey,
say Hendrix
please,
Lapierre is the one I
like, hey,
got.
please,
Yeah.
like, what's the hut card? Like a lot of them don't do what we do. So even to like a 50th percent, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So my point was like maybe you could still have video games because and cater to a younger audience because a lot of people are like, oh, it's cool. The NHL's putting in Fortnite skins for,
Yep.
the Dallas Stars have a jersey. I'm just making up something,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
you
yeah.
get what I mean. Like I remember Fortnite put in some like NFL stuff. I
They
remember.
did. They
So
did it in NFL. They done FIFA.
yeah, so it's just I don't know. I think it's just catering that way. There's different ways to do it, but I agree. It's just I don't know the whole thing. Like I said, it's bittersweet. Like I'm relieved from my standpoint because now it makes me feel like okay, I'm like I could play 7 Hut Champs games this weekend and
Yes,
whatever. You
that's
know what I
it. And
mean?
it's funny because I felt like that over the last few years when I became the voice of it. I knew that I couldn't compete in it. So
Yeah,
my like in personal interest was very little because I wasn't able to compete in it, and that I got complacent, and I said in my tweet that I stopped trying to grow esports because I felt truthfully that it peaked. And that's on me too. Like that's me getting lazy and whatnot. But now when I found out that the JBC was done, obviously I was, it sucks a little bit,
yeah,
because I got to go to all over the world, man. I've been to Sweden, the Netherlands, Denmark, all because of the NHL video game. Like, and I
yeah,
never would have gone. And that was amazing. Nashville. I said this in my tweet. 2019 Vegas and 2023 Nashville are like core memories for me. That I'll remember the rest of my life because those trips and those like just going out and all of that it was just perfect weeks, and that's something that the viewer doesn't see because the viewer
no,
is always like, it's a store in New York, like what are we doing here, right? But you don't see them the kids get to go to, or the guys, I say kids, the guys get to go to like MSG and get to go see a game, that like $800 tickets. The stadium series, those were $700 tickets. And you got to go, like Henrique and Delhi and all those guys. They got to go watch their favorite teams play outside at MetLife. Like, those are
right,
things that you don't see as a viewer, obviously, right? But they did a great job at the LAN events for the players and bringing them in and giving them an experience that what you said. I don't know if they truthfully appreciated. I saw Polgs' video. I don't know if you saw it. It's pretty like he got a little emotional, and it got me a little bit because I just I took the GWC for granted because I just assumed that it'd be every year. Because if it hadn't been canceled the last 2 years, I was like, man, they're just going to keep it going. Because I truthfully thought that 2023 wouldn't happen. Just because
yeah,
esports as a whole, I like it's my job. I'm in the industry. I could just see the writing on the wall for all esports leagues and what's happening, and I could not believe that they kept doing it and they doubled down. Like like they invested more. And you know, it was I took it for granted a little bit, and I look back on that now, like I said, the you know Montreal. Getting to go to those places with my dad, stuff that like you know when he passes on, I'll still have like Nashville, Montreal with my dad, and that's something that the GWC gave me, and I'll appreciate that forever.
No,
Now,
yeah, I agree. Like that Nashville trip was awesome. Like
exactly, man, that was that,
we wouldn't have been able to hang out if we didn't.
and
Not, I
every
mean, not
minute
that
of it
we
was
wouldn't hang
full.
out, but yeah, like it
Every
was a
minute was
good
full.
reason to. Right, we were running around all day.
It was just great,
It
and
was
I'm
fun.
sad that that is good today. The draft. So the draft just happened last night, the first round as of the time of this recording, and it was the first time since I found out about the GBC being over, being like, man, I'm not gonna get to go to these things anymore, you know, and because I'm not gonna get invited at
Yeah.
least in the current state. And the thing I'm kind of excited about is now I have to figure out a way if I want to be involved in like events like that, I gotta like change my way that I create content. Like, you know, maybe I gotta strap some blades on my feet and just be like, yo,
Yeah.
road to a slap shot
But
on rollerblades.
like as you talked about, you said in March, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like I mean, and this isn't like a. I'm not trying to make a woe is me for Sleazy because obviously he like you said he got to go to those places, but it does take a toll. Like I traveled a lot last month for my like stuff at work and like when you have kids, it and I'm not. I know the younger guys out here. They're like, I don't care. It's stupid. You're
You
going to.
should
I went to.
travel if you're young, by the
I
way.
went to Dallas and Orlando, and I went to all Chicago, and I mean, I'm going, all over the world. Like, feel like I'm going all over the world, but I'm really not. And I'm just like tired from like the flights, and I'm like, well, I kind of see like that a
March,
lot. Like, yeah,
the
it's
so like this is a thing of the NHL. They listened to the player base and they said they wanted the tournament more condensed, and I thought that was a good thing. I remember when I was seeing it, and it was really good for the viewers. But yeah, like this is like a personally because no one else was affected except for like me, Grizz, and I mean Carlin didn't even come to the Europe one, and for anyone who doesn't know, like the in March it was the European Championships at the first week of March. The next weekend was in New York for the North American Championship. There's a week off, but I had to go to Washington for a Caps thing, and then the following week was the World Championship in New York again, and we're talking like Thursday to Monday, and yeah, that I learned a lot about my life and like how I operate and things I need to change because man, I gained weight at an exceptional rate. Like I didn't leave my room. I was so worn out. I didn't want to be anywhere. I just want to be at home. You're right. When you have a kid, man, and I'm a new dad. And oh dude, there was one I don't know if it was Washington. It was like the third weekend in a row. I had a hard time putting my little boy down to go on to go to the airport, right? And you know, again, like that's what was me stuff, but it was you know, as personally, like that'll be nice to, you know, not have to do all of that going forward for the next little while. But who
yeah,
knows? You know, but who knows? And we'll see how I said this in my lengthy tweet. I got a little fired up. I'm kind of excited because now I know for a fact because a lot of the top end players I'm either friends with or I've spoken to number of times. You know, whether they think I'm their friend or not, that's fine. But I've had an open relationship with like you know many of the players that play the game at the top end, and so I know like I hear their you know their real takes on things, and there will be a just craving of competitive play because there's nothing now, right? So everyone assumes GWC's gone. Every event's gone. There's no events. It's just Hut champs. That's it. And I don't think that's the case. Like if the Cav, I am going to make sure that any NHL team that wants to do in a 1v1 event, that I will try and make it as best as possible. The thing that we get now is we get freedom to how the event runs. For anyone that isn't
yeah,
paying attention or hasn't been paying attention, which is a lot of you because the game's over with for the most part, the Blue Jackets are running an event on LG right now. Tris and myself have been in a lot of talks with EA, and Tris built something that allowed us to get information on 1v1 games, like stat tracking at a very base level. And it's just kind of a test right now. But imagine being able to do events where your shots on goal are tracked, your how many penalty minutes you get are tracked, an up to date, accurate ELO leaderboard based on performances that are all tracked, and it doesn't have to be input by anyone. We're able to make any format we want. For anyone that played in the Leafs event, Tris built a Discord bot where you queued in Discord and immediately found a game and then went on and played, and then you can track it automatically. Like, which was by far, from my understanding, the best player experience that we've had in NHL esports was that
It
event, was
really
the Leafs
was.
event, right? And
Yeah.
I think when Trish showed me that he built this Discord thing, I was like, bro, you need to sell this to FIFA or like organizers. I don't think he realized how big it was. And so there's a lot of things that we can now do that are far more maneuverable because we don't have to work with like legal of the NHL. We don't have to worry about signups and you know how those things are. So I don't think the competitive scene is dead at all. I think that the monetary amount that you can earn in a year is far more drastically reduced. But newsflash, only one person's making 50 grand this year, right? Which, you know, everyone thinks they have a shot at it, but they don't. And that's the reason why the tournament is no longer, I think. Like,
That's why I put out my tweet.
oh yeah, like everyone's got to go on Indeed.
I said, well, Indeed and Monster Jobs will be a little bit busy this afternoon,
Yeah,
and
like
that's because the people that out there that literally thought like this is my salary for the year. It's like newsflash, one person gets that when like maybe
I
there's
think it
other
was a
sports games that
justification. I
yes,
think it was a justification to being good at the game, and now you're gonna have to prioritize if you want to spend as much time as you do being the best
right,
at something, because there's still value in that. Like
yeah,
Polg's the best player in the world. No one can take that away from him. In 2024, no matter what Polgs goes on to do in his life, he was the best player in the entire world at the NHL video game. And a lot of people won't care about that, but that's a feat that only one person could accomplish in the world, and he did it. So, like, there's still like a feat to that. And all those old guys that grinded versus leaderboards, I used to love grinding versus leaderboards, and I was never great. I would just at the end of the year try and get to top 100, and then I'd fall out. But once I got to 100 one time, I would just like that'd be it. And I think that that's, you know, but those are forever because you can see it, right?
right,
And I think that there's gonna be a major shift in interest. The other thing I think is that I think that there'll be a lot more creators, or it'll force pro
yeah,
players who just focused on winning to, you know, maybe show their personality a bit more, figure out fun ways to create content, whether that's streams or YouTube. You saw it with Eki. I think the tournament just lined up with Eki's life so well. I got to be honest with you. He turned 18, I think, when the GWC started. He won it and was able to dominate Europe all the way through. Now he has a kid, and now he's going to transition into being more of a YouTuber. And I just think that works out perfect for him. And that's what I did that a few years ago. I stopped, you know, kind of caring as much about, you know, this is how you absolutely score every single goal in NHL. And I'm like, to more of like, you know, hey, you want to be out of Division 5? I'll show you how to get to Division 2. And, you know, the more the player base appreciates that than the guys trying to just dominate, you know, the game at the highest end. Because the more and more higher you get, the less and less it is like hockey. And
right,
that's another
yeah.
issue with EA. But like I said, I think that this forces EA to give us a leaderboard or something. I would be blown away if there isn't a leaderboard or something competitively. I also think that there's a chance that maybe EA runs a tournament. And I think that why that's so much better is because every time you add a friction point, you lose player base. So why it would be good if EA could run a tournament is it's all in the game. You don't have to go to Rivals to sign up, and you don't have to go outside of the game, and it's just you queue in, and yes, there's server issues and disadvantages via ping and pay to win and all of that, but I feel like it's just in game and everyone's got to deal with it, and it's maybe not as serious, and maybe you get to go to EA like the Purple Cobras did 10, 15 years ago, you know? Maybe it's sixes. Maybe they do a sixes something, because I don't think that EA will just let competitive NHL die. Maybe this year. I mean, we've seen that they definitely want to go towards a more younger, like
Yeah.
arcadey audience, so maybe they don't care about it. But
Maybe it's virtual banners.
maybe, dude, I've been banging the drum for that since I began Game Changer, man. Just bring back the opening ceremony if you won a Hut
Yeah,
Champs week. Like that is, from what I can see, the easiest way to give
100%.
that people would love that. So, you know, it's sad the GWC is done. I'm a little surprised. I am, because I figured it would have been canceled 2 years ago, and I just thought that it would just run. And I think that myself, as along a lot of other players, took it for granted. And we'll look back on the GWC era in the last 7 years as the best era of NHL esports. But I wouldn't be surprised in 6, 7 years, there's a new company or something that puts on a $100,000 event and they do something else. And the next thing will come. You know, the Virgin Series was what, 2011, 2012?
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was nothing until what, 2018? So 6 years of
It's
nothing.
fine if like we've already like I said, that's why I made that joke about that tweet. It's like if you're trying to make your whole life on this game, it's like
And
guys,
very few
just
people are doing that. you know?
Like either got to do what Sleaze is doing or nothing.
I
Pretty
bet
much.
there's a relief. I bet there's a lot
I'm
from
not
the
gonna lie.
competitive.
To be blunt, that's what you have to do if you want to make a living on this game. Is do what Sleaze does.
You
Henry,
have to be a content creator. Like
Rash.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
you can't like just like win, and there's not like enough things. Like I was making a joke to you, like the number one prize for like a GWC prize. There's like dudes that are coming in like eighth, 10th, ninth place, whatever, in other sports game or not sports games, but video games for esports or whatever, and that's their prize. So it's like there's not enough money in this to like make a career off it, just playing competitively. So
no, I agree.
there was people that literally thought they could. So
And
that's
what
why.
I think that a lot of the top end guys, like outside of the big like 5 to 10, where they have a shot at winning every year. Obviously, big hit for them because they have a shot to win every year. Like no matter what, like
Yeah,
they just will. But for the other, ranked 11 to 250 that think they have a shot at it, I think there's probably a relief. They don't have to grind hut
right.
day in day out. And maybe that brings back some more enjoyment to the game. So, yeah, kind of big news. And we'll see what happens. But like I said, I'm not going to let NHL esports die. I've already talked to a few club representatives as well. I will make damn sure that there is NHL esports events for some sort of monetary prize, and I'm gonna do my damnedest to make sure that every format is the best possible experience for the player, because now we get to focus on the player when we do all these events. So, all right, let's talk about the Panthers.
Yeah.
Okay, you've watched hockey your whole life, as have I. It's hard to let me ask you this. Can you watch a game with the same level of feeling you get when it's a Blues game?
I'd say more now. I can. Yeah.
With okay, if it's not with Kachuk or Petro.
Um. Yeah. I mean, I was even fine with the Oilers winning because of McDavid and Draisaitl
Okay.
because they need to win cups. Like they have to.
But what I mean is, Panthers on the power play and you're nervous.
No, I
Yeah,
wasn't
that's
nervous.
what I was trying to get. It's because I haven't
Yeah.
experienced anything like that. Maybe a little bit for the Leafs. Again, I've talked about this a lot. A lot of people make fun of the fact that I speak my mind and that I enjoy multiple teams. But I would like to see the Leafs win a cup. I equate the Leafs to the Cubs.
Hey,
Like,
you need to be like Biz.
yeah, no, that's too.
Yeah,
That's over the top.
dude,
That's over the top.
he's like, I'm actually like laughing the other day because Witt said that he's like he just goes into every arena and he just puts on the jersey and runs around
Did
and
you
it's
see
like,
RA? The
oh,
Panthers
dude,
just
that was my
crushed them.
that was my favorite thing of the cup or the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like just because it's like just what a lack of self awareness. Like yeah, I
Yep.
get it. You get invited by the Cates family. If anybody doesn't know, they're RA, Twit and Chicklets. I'm sure you guys all saw the clips. And he went on the ice and the Kachucks and Thornton from the Bruins.
Thornton.
Who
Yeah, it was
obviously
Thornton. He was like, dude,
he works for the Panthers now. They kind of like shoot him away, like, buddy, you were cheering for the Oilers all series.
get
And he's
out of
like, no,
here.
no, no, but I picked you guys to start. But the Chicklets crew and they got invited by the Cates family who owns the Oilers into their owner box. Well, obviously you're not going to sit there and cheer for the Panthers in the owner box.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's like a fine line where like if you're family friend, like if you were playing in the Cup final and I'm your boy, yeah, like I'll go in the other team's suite, but I'm not gonna be like rah rah rah. And he was rah rah rah, sloppy drunk, running around, doing riding the horse around the thing. I mean, he was going crazy, and like that. And it's what's hilarious to me is they almost blew a 3-0 lead,
Yep.
and during that tough stretch, they're sitting there watching this on social media and just fuming.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah,
And
it was a crazy
yeah,
sequence of events
so
there.
funny,
But
so funny.
so the first 3 games happened, and I watched. I told you I go to bed at like 9:30 now. I watched
Yeah,
most of the games were over early, except game 1. I watched in the
yeah.
entirety, and it was like, Jesus, how did Edmonton not win that? And that was really why they lost the series, because that game the Panthers stole, Bobrovsky stole. But the next 2, and then game 4 was like a blowout. It was like, God, this series is boring. It gets tough, and I was like, Panthers are just gonna win. Like regardless of how many games this goes. I talked about this a lot now as I've gotten older, especially when it comes to gambling. I used to be addicted to gambling in my early 20s, and so I'm very careful with it now. So I will never bet. I never like betting on things that just don't happen. Like for example, I've learned my lesson. The Toronto Maple Leafs, I will never bet on them to win it past the first round. It does not happen, and this isn't a shot at the Leafs. It just historically, we have now seen that the odds of it happening are very low. A team coming back from 03 It doesn't happen. I unfortunately got to experience it in 2014, which led to me burning $3,000 worth of merchandise that I had owned of the Sharks in what I called the fan exorcism. And dude, I couldn't believe that. That was a month into dating my wife. She saw this absolute psychopath sit there, watch this game, melt down, box up all my shit, and just burn it in my fire pit outside. Now thinking back, I'm like, she was like, "Yeah, dude, I thought you were kind of fucking stupid." Like, I was like burning jerseys and pucks, and anyways, so I was like, "There's no way Edmonton comes back." And then obviously the way that they win in games, like they're dominating. It just Game 7 was the best non-Sharks game I think I've ever watched because you had history. You had there's no way they're gonna choke. You had McDavid just dragging them to the cup, like to the cup, which never happens in hockey. Like we can talk about Gretzky and all the great players of the NHL. The sport is not one that can be done by one person. It's unless you're a goaltender, I guess. But even then, they can't score goals. So, it's not like the NBA where one person can just take over, or a quarterback in the NFL can just immediately make you a Super Bowl champion. And what we were seeing in games 4 and 5 was just McDavid like, I'm not losing this damn thing. And what a great game, dude! I don't know how Edmonton didn't score that last 6 minutes. It had me nervous. It had me like, dude, oh my god! Like it was the first time since 2019 that I've been that excited about a hockey game before. So kudos to the Panthers for somehow getting it done. I can't imagine. Like, have you talked to Matthew?
I did, yeah. We texted like 2 or 3 days ago. I just congratulated him, and then
I'd
just
love to be like,
he was laughing about RA because I was like, that was hilarious. And he's like, ha ha ha, like, but that's the type of person he is. Is like my friendship with him is mainly just because of skating, but it's not like we're not going out and boys and like super tight by any means. It's not even close to me and Petro, but it's one of those things like we grew up in the same area. I'm older than him, obviously, but I've scaled him a decent amount. So it's like he's always had dude who'll get back to me, even through all that. It's like he didn't have to even text me back. You know what I mean? It's like he probably had 1,000 texts. Like so, it was. But he's a good dude. Like him and Brady are just. I know people like other fans will roll their eyes and like hate them because they're kind of like Marchand. They're kind of they're
oh
just,
yeah, they're not.
they're
Yeah,
physical,
they're everyone's most hated
yeah.
player until they're on your team.
But they are good dudes. Like I know people like will roll their eye, but they are good guys. Like,
I
how
would
cool
love
is that, by the way, Brady? That was pretty sick.
Dude, okay, I want to address that real quick. So, as someone again, not like you, we don't talk to them regularly.
Yeah.
I got to hang out with them at the media tour last year.
Yeah,
and
I forgot, yeah.
dude, it was. I don't have a brother. I have a stepbrother, but I didn't grow up with a brother. These two were just brothers. Like Brady was the whole time. I hung out with him for like 30 minutes. We played NHL. It's probably one of my favorite clips. Like I'll show my son that. Like the media tour. That's something. Yeah. Like, and it was just hilarious to watch because they told me, hey, let them just like for this one because I was doing one-on-ones with everyone, but Matthew and Brady came together. And they were like, just kind of like poke the conversation and just try and get them to go. I really didn't have to do anything. They were just like joking about each other. Like I asked them what it's like playing each other. And Brady was like, now that we're in the same division, it's awesome. Like I just love, like, and you see that one game where they like were just beaking at each other, like when they had that big brawl. Not them two, but the Panthers and the Sens. And anyone shitting on Brady for celebrating, like you don't have a sibling. That's like simply it. And I don't have a sibling, but after hanging out with them in the summer, I can understand. I can see it. Like you can just see it. It's very, and now the question is going to be if Brady stays in Ottawa, and I don't. It's odd because I think that he takes the captain stuff seriously, but I think that Matthew started a trend for American-born players to not. We've talked about this a lot. The allure of playing for a Canadian franchise is at its lowest, I think. Yeah. And that's the political landscape. That's the world landscape, financial landscape. It used to be you got to play in Montreal or Toronto, and you do that regardless of your quality of life, outside of hockey. And now that really isn't the case because, as much. I think Montreal and Toronto are still the ones, and a little bit maybe Vancouver. But Ottawa is not one of the premier destinations.
No.
And we've talked about this before as someone from Canada, like it's funny, everyone thinks I just hate Canada. I'm just someone who is in their mid 30s and you experience what life is like, and then you go and travel to the US and see what the possibilities are. And the US is not perfect, but what
No.
you can live, the no winter for I feel like Canadians that have never traveled south, they don't understand the never having to warm up your truck. And
So,
you,
so
and you
like,
know, like it's things that the little things, those
yeah,
little inconveniences that you never have to deal with, and that weighs on people because as you get older, you've got a wife, you've got kids, you're
right.
gonna bring your kids out of school, like every time you get traded, all that, like it's all
Even
different.
even living here, we don't have that bad of winters, but like Petro's out in Vegas, I'm like, dude, it's like nice in December.
Yep.
The kids can just run out in like on the AstroTurf because it's Vegas, and
Mm-hmm.
they can just play outside in shorts and a t-shirt. And it's just it's we're here, you can't do that in the wintertime without being cold, obviously. And like Matthew, I know I was talking to him like months ago about this, like, dude, they drive their golf carts to the rink
Mm-hmm.
now. I
Yep.
mean, and it's amazing what's happened down there because like you put out a tweet about who would have thought this like about the Panthers
Oh,
back
dude,
like
and I got like so many angry idiots. Like, ugh, that's why I hate Twitter now. Anyways,
yeah, I
carry
know
on.
well you just get the and now you get the like the fake like likes and it's just like all the dumb it's whatever so we but it's so true because and it's still anybody that's like ever not realized it's like go on Google Maps and go look at where their arena is. It's literally next to the swamps and
Mm-hmm.
and it's by a mall.
Yep.
If they ever put that arena where they're if go look at their new practice facility where it is in
Mm.
Fort Lauderdale, if they ever
If
move
they
it
move
like
it to Fort Lauderdale, dude, that's
it
it.
will
Like,
be
yep.
them and them and the Lightning and the Vegas Knights and Dallas
Anaheim.
and like, I mean, all these teams are just going to run the league because it's not anything against like you said, like they can't like. There's always going to be the Montreal. There's always going to be the Toronto. There's going to be the
There's
Max Domi.
prestige. There's prestige
Yeah,
in
there's
it.
going to be the
Yeah.
Max Domis of the world, and then there's going to be the team that will break the curse in Toronto. It will happen, and
That's
then
I
there
think that's
it'll
part of it too. Like players
and
that think
yeah,
about,
like
being a
Berube 100% wants to do that. I know he does. Like he's already done it here. What else do you have to prove, right? So he's going to go there and try and do it there, and I think he will. I don't know
you
when.
if you win a cup with the Leafs, you will get a statue. All 23
100%.
players. Like even if you're a bench guy, you are getting a statue on Yonge Street, and I think that that's something that like is definitely
Which
important.
look at the Cubs. I mean, like when they
Mm-hmm.
won. And by the way, I got to
That's
go
what
to
I
Wrigley.
wanted to
I
say. Yeah, like yeah.
forgot to tell you about that. So we took my well, that sorry, this is a whole nother tangent, but I'm gonna do it real quick. But we went off to Chicago. My daughter, we took her to American Girl doll. My mom and my wife did, which is a doll place that's like famous in the United States.
Super
I
weird
don't
that
know.
a boy dad has no
Yeah.
idea what that is.
You will find out eventually. Like if you guys end up having a girl, or you'll just see it. Like it's just a really popular brand. People out there know what I'm talking about. So they went. So me, my son, and my dad, which is pretty cool. We got it was a pretty cool pick because we don't get to take a lot of picks together, and like
Same.
and it was just kind of like one of those things where it's like, oh wow, there's like my dad. I heard my dad say like, and he's kind of like your dad, where like I met your dad. It's not gonna show much emotion, not gonna
No.
like talk about feelings
Mm-hmm.
much. But my dad's like, yep, third generation. I heard him like mention it, and he was like, you could tell he's like proud.
Yeah,
But
he's
it was
got a little puffed up chest. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
we got a picture and we got to go to Wrigley with Cubs and Cardinals, ironically,
That's
same
sick.
weekend.
That's
It's
sick.
really cool because Chicago's only like 5 hours away. So we actually flew up, which was nice because with the kids, I'm like, avoid the drive, avoid the train, whatever way you want to go. And like
Mm-hmm.
we had to fly up and we had to try out Fisher on the plane. He did great. But it was real Wrigley Field, man. I'm going to the Winter Classic in January, by the way. So we're going up there for that because the Blues play the Blackhawks. And it was really cool. It was like eerie. It's like I want to go to Fenway now because it's like you
Dude.
see it in video games, you see it
Mm-hmm.
on TV, and you're kind of just like so numb to it because ESPN just plays the crap out of it, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
the Green Monster, the
Mm-hmm.
Ivy, like all these places that we always see. But until you're like sitting there and you're like, holy crap, like this
Dude,
thing's like over 100 years old and it's still modernized, like a new park to some degree. Obviously, there's still the troughs in the bathroom,
I was
but
about to say, dude,
like
you're still pissing in a line.
yeah, but the stuff outside the stadium, it's like they have like their kind of version of like Ballpark Village, which
Yep.
we have like Wrigley Field, like Xfinity Live. It's all those
Mm-hmm.
types of like setups, and it was really freaking cool. Like it was actually like the first time in a long time at a sporting event where I was like, this is pretty sick. Like even it's a
Dude.
random day game and it's packed and like I
It,
was like yeah, it was cool.
it's funny you say that because like I've been to Fenway 3 times now, like 3 different weekends, and
Hmm.
I remember my first time I went, it was for my buddy's bachelor party, who's a gigantic Blue Jays fan. There was 12 of us, and I'm the only Red Sox fan, but it was great for me. We went down to Boston for the weekend, And I remember the very first game we went to was a night game. A night game at Fenway Park, if you're a sports fan, like is just something that you should be on your bucket list. As you get older
Yeah.
and you get a little more adult money, regardless of where you live in North America, if you love baseball, even if you don't, you need to go see a night game at Fenway Park because, dude, you're right. It's just eerie, bro, and it's almost like run down, but like the history of it makes up for it, because you're sitting on crappy seats and you look up at the monster, but the field is pristine, and then outside you're right,
Yeah.
like it was just, you go down, like all the way down like Fenway, the street along Fenway. I can't remember the name of it now, and yeah, I agree. I think that Wrigley would be sick too with the ivy and the brick.
It's
Like,
just so weird. It's like in the middle of a neighborhood. It's
yep.
like we were driving. We couldn't. My daughter had to take the stroller,
No,
and so
no,
we were
yeah.
like, my dad's like, let's just go buy one real quick. And I'm like, all right, but like where? And then we were like, all right, there's a Target. Target didn't have one, of course. But dad's like, it's fine. We'll just carry him. I'm like, all right, this is gonna be sucky. And we're like driving like from the Target, like just a 3-minute drive. And I was like, yeah, I think it's like gonna be up here, like straight ahead. It says in the map. And it was just like we're in a neighborhood, and it's like, boom, there's dead center field, and I'm like, what in the world? And we
Yeah.
parked like right behind it. We paid like $40, but it was
Mhm.
pretty sick. Like I'm like, that's crazy. Like it's in the middle of a neighborhood. It's just like one of those things where it's just like there's so many legends and like there's so many clips you see, and it's like, man, that's the same ballpark. It's
Mhm.
nuts.
It's
Where it's
it's
like
great.
we're like the Cardinals. It's like I've seen 2 iterations now of Bush, and it's you don't have the same kind of like history feel. Obviously.
I went to see the Red Sox play in at Rogers Center in Toronto 2 Mondays ago for Father's Day. It was the day after Father's Day.
Oh, nice. That's
Yeah, it
awesome.
was dope. So, and I got to go to Rumple, one of my my mods on my
Oh, there
channel.
you
Yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah. It's
We had one of the head mods
and one of the head
with me.
mods
With me. No,
with
I'm just
you.
kidding.
Yeah. So we got to hang out. We got to hang out for a while. We've met a couple times, and um, Rogers Center is something nice too. Like I hate the Blue Jays with all my heart. It's funny. I hate them more than the Yankees, and I think it's just because I'm Canadian and I'm surrounded by the Blue
Mhm.
Jays and I like the Yankees. But another like venue where it's like when the dome is open and like the CN Tower is like right behind it. That's a
It's
view
pretty cool
that's
view.
crazy. Like we got to go a month earlier. A buddy of mine won tickets to for the Ticketmaster Lounge, and we got on field for batting practice. We got to watch Vladdy take swings and stuff. And when you sit right, I was standing right behind home plate, and like I was like imagining like walking up and like what the players look at, and dude, like this, like the CN Tower is like right there, like it's just a wild
Massive.
view. So is there? I
I
was gonna
want to
ask
go
you
to a
this.
game there.
It
I want to
is,
go to a
it
game
is,
there.
it is dope. Because Toronto is one of the nicer. Now that I've been to so many big cities, in North America, I forget that Toronto is like the third biggest city in North America, but it is not crammed. Like I think Philly, crammed. Like just narrow. New York is the epitome of it. It's almost overwhelming. And after
Yeah.
spending like 20 days there in a month, I got used to it. And you realize why it's so just the mystique of New York. But it's a little more spread out, a little more wide. Like streets are wider. It's not as crammed. Toronto's a very nice city. But anyways, I was gonna ask you this: is there an NHL arena that has made you feel like that?
Uh, it really wasn't the Leafs, because I was like, oh, the Leafs, Leafs. It was actually the
No,
Bell Center.
I was Bell Center's up there for me. I honestly think UBS. I remember the
Really?
first time I went there, like I think the seventh game ever at UBS. It was because it was finished halfway through the year that UBS opened, and it's a castle. Like it doesn't even look like an NHL arena on the outside. It legitimately looks like a castle, and then you walk in and you can tell it was designed for hockey, and the concourse is gigantic. Like you have the most amount of room. All of the bars and things are perfectly located. Like it was just very well done. MSG is another one. It's the roof. I don't think,
Yeah.
I think outside of it, it's again very crammed, and outside of it, it's like reminds me of like an apartment building. But then once you get in the arena, like actually in the dome, like in where the ice is,
Hmm.
that's like I remember sitting there and being like, and then like the other one is Vegas. Like I hate that the Knights, but the everyone that's a hockey fan needs to go because it's a show. It's
100%.
so Vegas. It's a show. And the first
Yeah.
5 minutes of a Vegas Golden Knights game is you're ready to run through a
Hey,
wall.
it would be nice to bend out in Vegas, like you were saying earlier, for the draft last night because
This
it's
was
so
one,
great.
yeah, the Sphere.
But
I've been in the Sphere, but
then it's like you're thinking, man, all that travel to get out there.
you know,
It's like,
yeah, like
and then all the travel back. My buddy goes to Vegas like every other weekend. I don't know why. He just loves to like party, and he goes to the
mm-hmm.
Win. He stays at the Win, and then he's like, oh, this 2.5 hour flight. I'm like, yep. I'm like, that's the part that I would be like annoyed with. But last night we got to talk about the draft. Obviously,
Yeah, let's talk about it.
big night for you. That was the
Yeah,
biggest night in a long time.
very weird because the Sharks have never been like this high in the draft, and in the last few years they've been bad. They obviously got screwed because of COVID for the Stützle pick. I want
Yep.
to point that out, by the way. When the Sharks for Carlson, they would have never gotten Stützle with that pick had COVID not ended the season. By the way, I just want to make that very clear. The Sharks were third last when the season stopped, but all of their players, like Carlson was hurt, Burns was hurt, and they would have been fine. They would have finished like seventh. But anyways, their picks haven't been. And then last year they missed out on Bedard. And there was a top four, but Will Smith was clearly like the number four of Fantilli, Carlson, and that. So it was like sick. We get Will Smith, kind of a letdown though, because it's not the other three, right? The excitement going in. Stoked we got Will Smith now. This year getting Macklin, I'm so pessimistic. I'm like this guy. I even said it on stream. I was like, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think that he is Slafkovsky or Lafreniere, where it's like bust. Even though I don't think Lafreniere will end up being a bust, I think that he'll be a great NHLer, but not maybe a first overall what everyone was expecting. I think that Macklin will be Nugent Hopkins, and that might like, and not because I've watched him play or anything like that. It's just my own pessimism of being a sports fan for so long, because unless you're a Red Sox fan or a Patriots fan like I am in those sports where you just assume winning every year, in hockey as a Sharks fan, I just assume that it's never going to work out. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just not. Like, you don't have
I hope he's like a Jack Hughes for you guys.
I think that from my favorite thing is when like creators and people that just watch hockey put out their like draft lists and whatnot. No one's watched a single second of junior, so like I find that cringe just as much as like I know you do. And I didn't watch Macklin play at all, other than like little clips. But it was nice this year because I did do a season of working for the Niagara Ice Dogs, and I've watched all the OHLers. Watching it as a fan is so much different than what I did this year, because I had to cover a team. So every night I would get the media kit, and I would take a picture of it every game on my Instagram. But I'd get a media kit, and it would show who the top OHL prospects are and who's drafted by NHL teams. And then while I'm watching the game, I'm not watching it as a fan following the puck. I'm watching like the players, and I'm not a scout or anything. And I never played hockey growing up, so I'm still learning what makes a good player, like what good edge work looks like, and what clean breakouts,
Right.
and who makes the good first read. And I'm learning that. And I got to watch it. It was the first time going into this draft where I'm like, hey, I have like my own input or takes on this player looks better than this player. I firmly believe that Zane Parekh, who ended up going to Calgary, has the ceiling of a Norris Trophy winner and the floor of Ryan Merkley, because his defensively when he played the Ice Dogs was not there at all, and it's been talked about a lot. But he's also kind of dirty. A lot of stick infraction penalties, a lot of after the whistle slashes, but offensively he's unbelievable. But doing that in the OHL compared to the NHL is far different. I think he'll be fine, but I'm so much happier that Dickinson became a Shark, because he's going, from every time I watched him play, he is just a rock solid top four defenseman. Like, I can see, like, I bet you that he has the better NHL career. Won't ever win a Norris, but will be Jacob Slavin at his ceiling. And at his floor, it's like, the top four, like Alec Martin, or Shea Theodore, maybe. Like somewhere along those lines, like it will be an NHLer. So as the draft's going along, I tweeted out, this is what I want to happen. It was like, number one, I want Macklin. At the 14th pick, any of the top six defensemen. And then at the bottom of it all, I was like, God tier move, Doug Wilson. Mike Grier trades the 14th pick in 42 and 53, 2 second rounders, to move up into the top 10. Then they move up and they get the 11th pick. And it's funny, as an Ice Dog fan, Dickinson gets booed every time he touches the puck, because it was funny. Sam Constantino, I think, the second that they drafted Dickinson, who, by the way, I was ecstatic for. And I'm so excited the Sharks got him, because they ended up leaving with the best overall player in the draft and one of the best defensive prospects in the draft. And the Sharks, in my opinion, won round one. but it's hard to lose when you get the best player of the draft.
Greer's doing good.
He is doing a fantastic job. I agree. And but anyways, the Dickinson thing, Sam Constantine goes, London saw him get drafted by Niagara and immediately said, we need that guy, and traded 7 picks. I'm just like, dog, that's not what happened. He didn't want to play there and forced it. Like, it's just that narrative. I just laugh because I know now because I follow the team and whatnot. So as an Ice Dog fan, it was like, didn't want Dickinson. But now next year when London plays the Ice Dogs, just like Quentin Musty, I was more excited last year when Quentin Musty got drafted by the Sharks than Will Smith because I got to see Sudbury play a bunch. Dvorsky, by the way, is also nasty for the Blues. And I got to watch them play a bunch against the Ice Dogs, and now I get to watch Dickinson absolutely destroy the Ice Dogs. And the last thing for the draft, the only other thing I care about now is in the 3rd round, I want Kevin He, who is the Niagara's best player in years, to get drafted. He's probably going to go in the 3rd or 4th round. He's at the Sphere. Nicest kid I've ever met, and I think he might be the first ever player drafted from China. I don't think he was born there, but of the Chinese descent. Like if they did a thing on him. One of the best skaters in the OHL. Like it's incredible, and it's been so fun to watch his entire junior career. Last year was his rookie season. I had season tickets. I watched him every game, and this year I got to see him, evolve. And if the Sharks get him in the 3rd round, I'll lose my mind. I'll lose it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll always remember this night for the Sharks because the guy's screaming in the background.
Dude, that was great. It was funny. He had one of those like awful like Etsy cut off sleeves basketball jersey. Dude, I was howling when they showed him because of the opening of it. It was like, let's go shoot! Like, and you could hear it.
I just love too, like, no cursing.
Nope.
Like, so it was all clean.
Yep.
And it could be like they could keep it on TV. They let it roll, and it just made it so like fun.
David Amber's trying to talk, and it was like, "Let's go, Joe!" Like it was just, I was laughing.
It was like your biggest fan ever.
And they showed him. I couldn't believe they showed him on TV. But you're right, he didn't swear or anything, and that was.
By the way, I'm gonna go out on a limb here. And it's the NFL that does it every. Well, no, now they're moving it around. They used to do it in Music City every year, like in New York or whatever. I wouldn't hate if they did it every year at the Sphere.
I think that it sucks though because the in-person draft is like gone now. This is the last year of it, and I agree. I was at the last 2 drafts, and an NHL arena is not set up for the draft very well. Like it just isn't because
last night looked good.
It was incredible. Like I said, it was the first time since the news of the GWC where I was like, oh man, like I could have been there, And I hope that they do it every year because it looked amazing. But I don't know now. Like I think the plan is the players go, but the teams don't because the big thing is that the free agency is in 2 days and teams need to now fly back and they need to.
Right.
I think that's
the Panthers and Oilers really got
dude. Like that's awful.
Like how long the season took, but honestly, like we got to do an episode here in the next week after the first kind of because it's always like the first 2 days of free agency. Then everyone just goes. Well, everyone just goes home.
Friedman and Sarah Valley shut down for the year.
Yeah, and they already said like 90% of the big names are signed already.
It's Stamkos and Gensel.
I know. I'm so curious to see where Stammer goes, and I don't know. I was looking at my phone when we were doing this, and apparently Trouba. And I told a young Nip and Biscuits about this. I said, dude, I wonder if he goes back to Detroit because he played in Michigan. He's from there. And like they could get him on a like a retained deal. Yep. I'm so curious what the Rangers are doing though. Like they got rid of Goudreau to you guys for nothing.
That was a gift, by the way. And as a Sharks fan,
what a gift for them, right?
Mm-hmm. I was a little annoyed because it's like, dude, you just gifted the Rangers because they had to buy him out. But I guess the Sharks need. I'll speak to as a Sharks fan. He is not worth the money, not even close. No. But he wouldn't have waived his no movement clause to go there. Which I guess is like a thing right now. Like that's they were gonna trade for him, and then like there'd be retained money or something, but he wouldn't accept, and they were like, "This is a way around it." Like he had a no trade clause, so it's like, he scored probably the biggest goal in the Sharks history, and they need bodies. They need bodies, and they need bodies, and the cap hit is a joke. The Sharks don't have a cap. Like they, Like they have to get to the floor. So would I have loved to see him be traded to the Sharks and they tacked on a 3rd? The Wallman trade. Something has to come out about that. Either he has a degenerative injury and the Sharks knew it, and they're like, that's fine, we'll take a second. But he is one of the better contracts. I don't know how it didn't cost the Sharks a second.
Did I ever tell you the story about him?
Wallman? No, I forgot he was a Blue, to be honest. I forgot he was
No,
so good as a Blue last year.
I'll tell this real quick because I know we're probably going a little longer because we haven't been
Yeah, we haven't been around
live in a while, but we haven't been around. Yeah, it's me saying that. You're live every day. No, like but no, I've skated with him. He got called up, and I skated with him that morning. There was a Blues game. It was like an afternoon game. Me and my wife were in the concourse. I think my daughter was with us. Like she was real little. We're walking around doing the concourse rounds, and I see him standing in the concourse in the upper deck, and he's standing there in line for food. And I go up to him and I'm like, Wally, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm just getting a hot dog, because like I couldn't get. I'm like, dude, there's like a whole buffet downstairs. I just didn't know if I could go down. I'm like, yeah, you're a player.
Yeah, he's nervous.
He was literally getting hot dogs from a concession stand. Like I was like, what? This guy plays. Well, he wasn't in the NHL all the time, but he was like a call up.
That's so
he was
funny.
pretty hyped up out of college, out of Providence, and then like I think it was just one of those things where it took a while, and it almost need like a change of scenery.
His
get
last
him,
year with the Blues, he was like that because I remember when Detroit got him, it was like, man, that's a solid trade. And then he was Sider's deep partner for the majority of the year.
Yeah,
like he got hurt, but like. Could not understand. Like obviously,
it's been a pretty good trade for both teams. I think, like, well, from my standpoint at least, from like because I think like Nick Leddy's been a lot more solid than I thought for only like $4 million. He's a great skater.
$4 million now is like $6 million because of the
dude. I know it's funny because at Parayko, everyone was like coming off that. It's like he makes $6.5 million. I'm like Colton Parayko at $6.5 million for the next 7 years is a steal. Like he might. I'm gonna go on a limb right now. Because of Doug being the GM, I wouldn't be surprised if Parayko somehow sneaks on Team Canada.
You could see that. I could see that too.
Remember how like Bouwmeester made it, and everyone's like,
"Oh yeah."
Everyone's like, "Wait, Subban has to play over him because he scores all these points." Well, Bo played over him in Sochi, and like it's just, I'm excited for the Sharks. So I'm kind of like back when I was a child. Like I used to love staying up for the Sharks games because I love their goal horn. I love their goal song. I love Randy Hahn. I had the NHL pack. They were so fun to watch. Chichu and Thornton and all them. And like, so I would always like stay up late watching because I'm like you say, I stay up late all the time. I'm actually like excited to see like Will Smith, and I'm excited.
Last year was tough, like because all it was Eklund. And because they didn't put Greer made a point to not put anyone. He wanted everyone to play in the AHL because they knew the team was bad except for Eklund. So it was the only thing to watch for really because Meyer got traded and then Hertl got traded. But now Will Smith's coming, and if Macklin stays, like,
would you go after Askarov?
To be honest, I actually had the 14th pick not been traded for the 11th. I was like. Because
I mean, dude, I was thinking about that last time with the Sharks. It's like that's a team right there.
I think that today
you don't want to ruin him obviously because if he gets to the Sharks, he's going to get lit up this year.
It's 9:20 in the morning right now, Eastern time. The second round starts at 11:30 in 2 hours from now. I will be stunned if the Sharks on the 53rd pick do not take Carter George, Ryerson Linders, or Ilya Nabokov. Nabokov is not related to Evgeny. Those are the three best goalies in the draft. I would be blown away if that, and they're all like in the second round and below, if that 53rd pick is not one of them. Because, I agree. When Askarov became, but I saw that they wanted like a top 10 pick. Goalies don't get that, man. Like we are running a little bit late here. We gotta do reactions.
We'll be back this week.
I agree.
It's like I said, like we'll be doing it more. I'm gonna try to get some interviews too.